England are world champions. I can't believe it. England, I am slightly delirious. Phil Walker, Joe Harman, the two people who've brought you the entire World Cup to your eardrums.
Single-handedly.
How are you guys doing? How are you feeling? Can you believe it's happened?
No, I can't actually. It still hasn't really done its job. I genuinely did wake up this morning after about 3 or 4 hours sleep and think that didn't. Oh, it bloody did. It actually did happen. It did actually take place.
But it didn't just happen. It was arguably the greatest game of cricket that's ever been played.
No argument about it, yes.
Genuinely?
Well, we said it on the podcast after the match, and it felt like a ridiculous thing to say. But the more I've thought about it, definitely the best one-day match ever played. Compare it to 05, different thing entirely. But as one-day matches go, guaranteed the best. It's still sinking in for me. I only had 1 pint afterwards. I couldn't really take too much of it in. I had to go home, watch an episode of Sopranos and go to bed because it was all a bit too much.
Incredible. So we're actually here at the Oval, so if you come closer, we're at the Oval. The England team are about to come out. There are loads of kids playing cricket. It's 2005 all over again, Phil. Trafalgar Square was buzzing yesterday. Channel 4. Imagine if this game was behind a paywall.
I know, it's some
7.5 million people watched the game on Channel 4.
Are they the numbers? 7.5 million?
More people followed it on BBC Sport than any
article ever. So
any
not
article
just sport.
ever followed on BBC website.
It broke their record of the general election coverage in 2017. So more people were watching, refreshing, checking out the rules for what happens in the Super Over and what happens if it's tied.
As a few of us were.
The general election.
So it turns out this game is alive and well after all then?
Well, I mean...
How many obituaries has it had written in the last few months?
A well-known cricket reporter, who I won't name, came over halfway through that game and went, this isn't much of an advert, is it? For this to be on Channel 4. And to be honest, at that point, it hadn't really been. But for the tight finishes in low-contest matches, in low-scoring matches, you have to have a little bit of that before you get the thriller at the end. And we had it in a way that we could never have possibly imagined.
It was just the most ridiculous end to a cricket match, right? That last 40 minutes, I don't know how the time went. Super Over. We have a Super Over. England get 15. At that point, most people thinking that that's the game done and dusted. Then New Zealand, Jimmy Neesham coming in first up in the Super Over. I thought Gene Neesham came Williamson having a lefty to the short boundary.
Yeah.
But also him hitting that 6 early on in the Super Over. New Zealand only needed 7 off 4, then 3 off 2.
3 off 2, yeah.
Then England defended it.
7 from 4, 9 times out of 10 you lose that game, don't you, as the fielding side. 3 from 2, was it?
It was 3 from 2, yeah.
3 from 2, you're dead in the water.
Same as what England needed in their final over.
Yeah, Jofra Archer is a genius. I think that's a fair call. Jofra Archer is still maturing as a cricketer. You see the way that he bats. You see the way that he reacts when things don't quite go his way with the ball. He is still a young, raw, yet to mature cricketer. But as a bowler, he's as old as the hills. He's an ancient bowler in a 23-year-old's body. It was no doubt that he was going to have to take that over. And he said himself afterwards, I don't know if you caught this, he said, yeah, I kind of knew it would be me.
That was great, wasn't it? Yeah. These things flip out from Archer. It's absolutely brilliant.
He's an England legend now, and he's not played a test yet.
That will change. That will change in 2 weeks' time. We'll be seeing him play his first Test match. I mean, he's been an absolute star. I love the stuff that's going on here that people have picked up his old tweets as well.
Is there anything that he didn't tweet?
He's commented on every single thing that happened in this World Cup 3, 4, 5 years ago, whilst he was just a cricket fan, still just a county cricketer at Sussex. Now he's a World Cup winner, could be an Ashes winner in 6 weeks' time. It's a pretty special start to a special player's career.
Fingers crossed. I thought one of the best things about yesterday was the engagement from non-cricket fans, and I certainly had texts from a lot of non-cricket fans who were loving it, asking. I had one question asking after the Roy non-LBW on the first ball of England, and saying, why was that not out? It was hitting the stumps.
It's a fair question.
Fair question. But then the messages at the end of the game were extraordinary. Joe, you had a couple.
I had one from a friend in America who only follows Arsenal. That's all he follows.
That's not even a sport, is it?
Yeah, he messaged me to say, cricket is now officially my favourite sport.
Hey.
That was insane. Woke up at 4 a.m. to watch it. And that's what you want. I mean, he will now... Well, I don't know, he live in America, live a tune of the Ashes, but that will stick in his memory as a great sporting moment.
Phil, have you got anything?
I might have. Just on it being a one-off, there were sports writers in the press box who are chief sports writers of the big newspapers who have covered it all, seen it all, and make their reputations on being kind of impenetrable, if you like, and they've seen everything. I heard two of them say yesterday from two of the big broadsheet newspapers, that is the greatest sporting event I've ever seen. So that cuts through all the other World Cups, cuts through the Olympics, cuts through the lot. For drama,
I mean, like, you're going from chief sport writers at the big newspapers. My mate who's pulling pints in Croydon at the moment texted me yesterday. Just in terms of sporting drama, I don't think I've seen anything like it. And he's not a cricket fan. I don't think I've ever talked to him about cricket ever. And that's the kind of impact that game had.
Well, the big breakthrough for me was my little sister, who...
A cricket fan?
No. I mean, calls it the Crickets. Comes to the Oval sometimes
She's
for the Friday
night. For a pissed up
she comes because, you know, the wine tends to flow on a Friday night round these parts. So she watched it. She watched it for 20 whole minutes. She's never sat down in front of a TV screen and watched cricket before. And she said, "Yeah, this is bloody dramatic stuff." My mother was thrilled. She loves Ben Stokes. I think she likes the kind of the vulnerability, the kind of the sort of fallen hero figure and the redemption song and all of that. She's a sucker for that. She's a sucker for a rogue as well. So she was thrilled. Also, my mate Luke as well, who was watching in a caravan in Isle of Wight. Now, my mate Luke's the kind of bloke, when I asked him to pick his all-time England ODI side, he listed Nick Knight from numbers 1 to 11. He kind of studiously disliked cricket at university. He was there with his bottle of champagne, celebrating the champagne super over, thinking that he was the funniest bloke in the world because he was the first one to come up with that pun. I haven't yet had the guts to tell him that this has been doing the rounds for years in cricket already. There's quite a few. You had one or two.
I want to read one out as well. This is from our mutual friend Matt Sherry.
Yeah, here we go.
Who's been enjoying the Wisden Cricket podcast, as I'm sure lots of people have. He said, "I've thoroughly enjoyed the podcast, mate. Being interesting every day while simultaneously keeping Phil's rampant ego in check is no easy task." And on that, I wholeheartedly agree. Certainly the second bit. Phil, anything to add there?
I know not of what you talk.
Okay.
Cheers, Sherry. Yeah, thanks, mate.
Do you think that anyone in the world knew the rule about what happened when the Super Over was tied before yesterday?
No, and has that always been? But that's new for this World Cup,
Honestly,
right?
I have no
Previous
idea.
Super Overs, I don't think that's been the deciding factor. And someone tweeted me this morning saying, "Why is it?" And I guess it's because it promotes entertaining, attacking cricket. But it does.
Because no one is aware of the rule until
it's too
too late.
Everyone's thinking, oh, right, with 47 overs in, we need to hit a few more boundaries because they hit some earlier.
It is pretty arbitrary, isn't it? But I don't think we're complaining.
Oh,
there might be a few Kiwis who are complaining.
Well, apparently, there were part of why yesterday was so incredible is there were so many incredibly memorable moments I don't think you'll ever forget from the last half an hour of the game. Now we've got Jerusalem in the background. But one of those moments was when when the throw came in.
It's better be big what you're about to say,
hits Ben Stokes' bat and goes for 4 overthrows, and England get given 6 runs.
Right.
Apparently, England should have only been given 5, Phil.
Right, yeah. Well, I wrote last night the most infamous 6 in cricketing history. It turns out it's the most infamous 5 in cricketing history. So explain the obscure ruling that was news to me. So the batsman have to have crossed to complete that second run to add up to the 6, obviously with the ball running away before. But because they hadn't crossed on the second, it's therefore just one completed single, right?
So the umpiring great Simon Towfel said that just that basically, that in order for that to be given a 6, Stokes should have to cross with Rashid, but they didn't. They didn't cross, so it should have been apparently 5.
If it was 5, then Stokes would have stuck that full toss.
Exactly. He wouldn't have dabbed it down, would he?
No.
Obviously.
No.
Cameron Toby, come and look at the atmosphere. This is incredible. The Oval filled with children. Jerusalem playing in the background. The country's press.
Oh, hang on, we've got the England team as well.
I think the England team. Where's the England team?
To your right, Yaz.
There we go.
Here they are. Timing, look at that.
Here they are.
I've got goosebumps, yes.
This is pretty special. Liam Dawson is a world champion.
So what were the numbers? 7.5 million were watching it at one point.
7.5 million people were watching the Super Over on Channel 4. That's great. Kids sprinting over.
You're like Dimbleby, Troop in the Colour.
What are they going to do? There's lots of high fives. Joffrey's got a coffee.
Yes, what was your moment of yesterday? What was your kind of obscure moment of yesterday?
How can you pick one?
Come on. There must have been...
feel so sorry for the Kiwis, right? England were the best team over the tournament, but New Zealand were the best team yesterday. So I think New Zealand deserved to win on that day. My moment from yesterday was that 6 that Stokes hits that Bolt catches on the boundary, doesn't realise where the boundary is, puts his foot on the boundary rope, and he exchanges a little moment with Martin Guptill.
And they smiled,
and
don't
they
they?
smiled at each
Yeah.
other. It's like in the heat of battle in the World Cup final, you possibly cost your team the World Cup. And just that there were so many moments like that in the last half an hour that that 6, the overthrows.
Here comes the champagne.
And the champagne's coming out here. Champagne super over. Thank you
Right,
very much. Here we go. Cheers, guys. England are world
so
champions.
let's put that moment into perspective then, right? This is a ragged show, isn't it? At the best of times.
Which one?
Oh no!
The orange juice
now
is
my
gone.
orange juice is gone. New Zealand were one human stride away from winning the World Cup. Think of the number of strides taken during the World Cup by 11 cricketers on a pitch at any one time, and they've lost by one human stride.
So you want
if he hadn't gone like that, Bolt, brilliant catch, brilliant boundary rider fielder as well. If he hadn't done that, or if he just moved half a second earlier and lobbed it half a second earlier, they'd be winning the World Cup.
I like the number
and
of
we
people
wouldn't be sitting here like lemons.
I like the number of people that dived for victory over that last 10 minutes. How many people dived to make their ground? Yeah. Mark Wood going for it. Jimmy Neesham obviously at the end. You had Adil Rashid dive for his ground before that. Everyone just literally flinging themselves to the ground in the hope that would win them a World Cup, and none of them coming off.
You asked for niche moments. Mitchell Santner ducking the last ball of the New Zealand innings. You know,
and Tom Latham as well, ducking 2 or 3 overs out. They are. Latham's like an opener to his bootlaces, isn't he? You know, and Santner as well. You know, he's a proper old school kind of cricketer. It was a strange old innings, New Zealand's. Who was it who just said that at one point 30 overs in, kind of people were sort of shrugging their shoulders a bit and thinking, oh, well, this isn't much of a spectacle. We better turn this off at lunchtime because it's just going to be a cakewalk from there on in. And it did have that kind of feel there.
But then that India win gave them confidence, didn't it? I mean, they ended up with almost exactly the same score that they'd managed to defend against a similarly good batting lineup.
Yeah, Bolt's opening spell, phenomenal.
And Matt Henry as well. Matt Henry was absolutely fantastic.
A word on Colin de Grandhomme, who bowled one of the all-time great World Cup final spells.
Yeah, well, I thought the ridiculousness of yesterday was summed up when we were all giving each other sort of big pats on the back because we played out Colin de Grandhomme. He'd got one for 28 off his 10 overs, and I was so relieved. But he was the bowler we were meant to be hitting. He was the bowler we were meant to be kind of.
It's the big sleeper stat of the tournament. He was comfortably the most economical bowler in the whole of the tournament by half a run and over, pretty much.
On the Kiwis, there was a lovely moment at the end as well. I don't know if you saw the video that was caught where Kane Williamson's told by one of the producers that he's been named player of the tournament and he has to go over and collect his award. And his reaction is kind of, what, me? Which was just perfectly Kane Williamson. Yeah, why not you? Why not you?
Yeah.
And it was the least he deserved after yesterday, I think. Even though Shaki probably deserved it
more.
Well,
this is it, yeah. Call the cops. Shaki's been robbed, I think, on that one.
So how do we move on from today? So we just had the greatest cricket match of all time. England have won the World Cup after 4 years of planning.
Got to send a magazine to print in 2 days. Yeah. That's how we move on. But
have a look at this. I don't know. Is that Morgan with the trophy?
That is Morgan.
Morgan with the trophy.
Yeah, so where do England move on from here? Where does English cricket move on from here? They've won a World Cup after the greatest game of all time. And we've got the Ashes coming up. It's going to feel like a bit of a anti-climax after all that.
No, I don't necessarily think so, provided people don't get unrealistic and expect too much. You know, I mean,
how can you not?
Anybody who's ever followed the fortunes of a ball or a bat in any sport has to know that it doesn't always play out like that, that you're going to get bad days. You're going to get average and underwhelming days. The thing with this Ashes series, I think there are more subplots to it than there have been in recent times. The Smith-Warner thing's obviously irresistible. The fact that Australia and England have a pace battery that can demolish both sides on any pitch on any given day adds real spice to it. And I think Australia, who of course hold the thing, we get quite smug and complacent over here these days because they haven't won since 2001 on English soil. Well, just as we were getting twitchy, having not won over there for the best part of a quarter of a century, it's getting on for 20-odd years over here, 18 years. They will fancy it, I think, Australia. And England are England's top 6. You know, it is an evolving kind of situation.
And this World Cup has added to the narrative as well that we had. England get thrashed by Australia at Lords, on the brink of being knocked out of the World Cup. then England absolutely hammer them in the semi-final at Edgbaston in one of the kind of the great performances that an England side has ever produced. And even within that, you've got the little subplots. You've got Jofra Archer will be opening the bowling and the Ashes most likely. Jason Roy most likely opening the batting.
Definitely.
Alex Carey will probably come into that Australian side. So it's kind of it's not quite a part 2, but it's at least a continuation of the same story.
And the story of certain individuals as well. Jofra Archer, as you said, has not played a Test match. Well, he will be playing a Test match in 2 weeks' time against Ireland, and then he'll be playing, all being well, in that first Test match in the Ashes. As I think maybe Morgan, maybe Stokes said last night after the show, we have a superstar here. We have a superstar in our midst. A kind of character that you can hang whole campaigns on. The kind of character that can break through. Just as Stokes has that kind of breakout everyman quality, well, Jofra Archer's story, if you are progressive and open-minded, is a thrilling and liberating one. It's around these kinds of stories that English cricket can hang its future.
Where do you think Stokes ranks now in the pantheon of English greats? Because what he did there was just extraordinary.
It was, and over the course of this World Cup, his one-day batting has really come of age. The manner in which he's batted, the runs he scored, also the readjustment to a new role inside. I mean, he didn't bowl until the 30th over against New Zealand in a World Cup semi-final. Stokes says he's comfortable with that, but that will kill him. A character like Stokes not being involved in a game like that up till that point will have really frustrated him. I think we've seen that come out of his batting. It's like, well, if I'm only going to bat and bowl a little bit,
I might as well
do this really, really well. And we talked about as the match was reaching its conclusion that Stokes might have scored a ridiculous amount of wasted runs in this World Cup, because he kept scoring runs in losing causes. Well, he scored the runs in the biggest cause you could possibly imagine. And this is, we've talked about redemption, and obviously there is an aspect of that.
And it was interesting that Root alluded to that twice in 2 different interviews last night.
Yeah.
He spoke about what Stokes and the Stokes family has gone through. So they're not shying away from it. They're not trying to erase.
And Stokes
that
hasn't
story
either. He's
from
addressed
history.
it fully when Nasser spoke to him on the podium yesterday as he received his Player of the Match award. He again addressed it, and he acknowledged that this has been a horrendous 12 months, because it almost is exactly a year, isn't it?
Yeah, 2 weeks out from a year, when he was walking into Bristol Crown Court when England were going to Lords for the second Test against India. Talk about a sliding doors moment, really. We don't need to dwell on that too much, but what you are talking about now is a cricketer that doesn't just carry charisma and promise. He now carries medals and gongs and proof of his brilliance. Is he a great cricketer? Not quite, not yet.
After that, you just won a World Cup final.
I think those kinds of words are very difficult to bandy around. I think you can only really put a handful of cricketers from every era into that great category. But it certainly helps when you win stuff to back it up.
And this is
Flintoff
is known as a great of English cricket for 05. Yeah. Pretty not exclusively, did amazing other things, but that is really what we remember him for. And Stokes' World Cup will be the same.
Figures do not say he's a great cricketer, but Stokes' impact and allied now to the things that he's won, 2 Ashes series, this obviously desperately unlucky in Bangalore not to have won now 2 world titles. I sense that there might be 1 or 2 more to come.
So obviously the win was incredible. Incredible for English cricket to win a World Cup final in that way. But I think what's also important was actually who the 11 Englishmen are. Yeah. They're in an incredibly likeable bunch. I thought Owen Morgan in the press conference yesterday was asked, did you have the luck of the Irish on your side? And he goes, I think we had Allah on our side. I was talking to Adil at the end of the game, and he said Allah was on our side, so Allah was on our side.
Yeah.
That
is
amazing.
That is
the
a
England
nice
captain in 2019 and the state the country's in at the moment, to say something like that is actually incredible.
I thought it was absolutely brilliant, especially when you have certain right-wing politicians tweeting this as a victory for England who can do it without Europe, and then you've got Morgan in a much more intelligent and kind of humble manner, talking about the side that he's got. And you can tell.
And he gave the interview to us, didn't he?
At the
just before the tournament, saying he wanted this to be a positive reflection of what it is to be British in 2019.
And it means we can be proud of English sport. A continuation, really, of Gareth Southgate, how he handled that in the World Cup. He spoke openly about this, about him wanting his side to represent England. And Morgan has taken that on, and perhaps not in quite the same outspoken way that Southgate has, but it's the same sentiment. And it's great to see him with all these kids walking around with the trophy now.
This really is amazing. Have a look. To be honest, I never thought I'd see scenes like this. I thought even if we won the World Cup, there wouldn't be celebrations like this at the end of the day. Have you seen the video of Trafalgar Square at the winning moment?
I haven't seen the winning moment yet.
Absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. The whole place goes wild.
This is a classier affair than the Trafalgar Square moment, I think.
It's a bit.
Oh yeah, just a little bit. Look, I think
That had its own sense
There might
of
be one or
beauty,
two
I
England
think.
cricketers in there though who have not had any sleep at all.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised.
clever use of kids, wasn't it? That means they have to be well behaved.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we should wrap things up.
Sure.
I'm still in a daze. Cheers, Phil. Cheers, Joe.
Cheers, yes.
I don't really know where cricket goes from here, but I don't really care.